This right here gonna be a cakewalk.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It seems like the Tekken developers can't catch a break, and you have to start questioning whether or not it's self-inflicted. The Tekken summer updates that they did a couple of days ago, this is something that the players were looking forward to because the Tekken Talks is something that a lot of people had an issue with. There was a lot of time wasting, there was a lot of self-promotion going on. It was just a format that was good, but could have been made way better. Like, the concept of it was good. And with them changing the name to summer updates and changing basically the whole format, players were looking to, things stepping in the right direction. But it got off to a rocky start when you had like a 20-minute countdown timer, followed up by a please wait screen that lasted about 30 minutes. And then the first thing they started to talk about was the collaboration. This collaboration is something that had a lot of people excited, especially with the concept or the idea that we could potentially get a new outfit for Reina. We were thinking hopefully this could be applied to every character, but with Reina being the queen of Tekken currently, this is something that people were looking forward to. But when they actually did the reveal, it was just this little slime ball. And this has once again increased just the shock and awe surrounding the Tekken and their collabs, from the Nike collab, from the Chipotle collab, to this collab, to the Karate Kid collab. It just continues to seem like fumble after fumble. And at one point in time, we were comparing them to Street Fighter because Street Fighter has so many great collabs. But Tekken is getting so bad to where you could compare the collab to itself, and it's disappointing. This slime ball is what we get. Meanwhile, the game they collab with gets Reina's outfit. This is just not really that awesome, and a lot of people on Twitter are definitely letting that be known. This tweet here from Super Akuma really says a lot. Disappointed about something I didn't even care about. You have this tweet here, which is highlighting how it's 2% gameplay, it's 2% items, 20% collab, and then 60% stuff that we already seen before. And I just don't understand why the Tekken developers are very repetitive like that. They show the same things over and over and over again, and then they promote it as if they're going to show something new. And it's just a bad thing to do all around. And you have content creators like King J questioning something seems very off with this showcase. New characters releasing, but the energy is down. You have Blackheart also talking about their communication strategies, and you have other tweets as well. It's just crazy to see Tekken drop the ball in this aspect. But then when you talk about what came next, this is the actual update itself. And we know this is the final update until all of the major tournaments pass by, like EWC, EVO, etc. So considering the fact that the developers apologized, they replaced their development team, and they promised to make the game good, we were expecting this final update, which is about 3 months from the launch of Season 2, to be something meaningful. But then when the time came, it wasn't really much. And this now has players looking off into the future saying, maybe the next time, maybe the next time. And you have this meme here, which is making fun of that. It's every single time the players were given something bad by the developers, and they said maybe the next time we'll fix it. People are already talking about the Armor King update, Season 3. It's hard to say whether or not Tekken 8 is just like truly messed up, because the developers told us at the start of Season 2, you can't really remove aggression. Once the game is built on that format, you can't do it. So much time has passed since statements like those were made, but we don't have any new statements or new explanations from them. This is also why the Tekken summer updates was disappointing, because this is the time where the developers can communicate the direction that they want to go, the things that they want to do. And the developers really didn't do that. They didn't say anything about the direction. They mostly just advertised, and then they pieced out. This update in and of itself could be considered good. It's a good update. They're not really like breaking anything too much, but it's just not a meaningful update. And to give you an example of what I mean, here's some pro player takes. Kane says they need to balance the game to make the game better, not be afraid to balance it because of the TWT season. 1% of the Tekken community competes in tournaments. If you keep track of the competitive players' thoughts, most also want balanced game, not one-sided convoluted nonsense. And then responding to this, Joe Crush says, please, as a part of the 1% of the competing players, don't worry about us. Focus on making the game better for everyone. I don't care if the game changes a ton mid-season. If the changes are actually good, that's what should be prioritized, not if I'm going to be able to manage them before the next tournament. And this is how dire things are, because if you look in the past, people were saying, no, don't balance the game before tournaments because we need time to lab it. But the game is getting so off track to where pro players are like, please. And this is something they were even saying in season 1 when you talk about characters like Dragonoff and Jin. But now you have a lot of people speaking up. You have Farzane who says we have to play EWC with this patch. EWC, I guarantee you that thing is going to be dominated by Fakam because he's not going to be nerfed. Fakam and Anna are going to dominate that. And it's sad to see because it's supposed to be a very integral competition where the best of the best get to show off their skills. But we're probably going to have a launch Leroy situation with Fakam because he is brutal. But then also when you talk about just as a whole, how this update doesn't deliver much. I mean, High Tone here summarizes this whole update in one tweet. Everything else about season 2 basically is a nothing burger. And then also it's an L patch. Fighter GM says it seems with this new patch they are really listening to Twitter complainers. They really nerfed Zafina again after buffing her, took out some of Lee's bugs, and only buffed Deviljin because apparently Deviljin is the worst character in the game and everyone else is carried. And this is the thing, there's a lot of people who were pushing for Deviljin to be buffed, and I constantly highlighted how he has one of the best win rates in the whole game. And now that he got this 14 frame while standing launcher, I mean, we'll see if that bad boy shoot up or not. But also speaking to everything else Final Jim said, yeah, the developers had one idea in mind when going with season 2. Zafina is the character who they said themselves received the most updates out of everyone. But then in Tekken 8, they're reversing all of it and they're just following the whims of random tweets. If your tweet goes viral, expect to see your change in the next update. And that's a very bad way to balance the game. They wanted to go in the direction of offense. They see that that's not working. So they should have a vision in mind with pursuing defense, not just tweets. You can see here though just the different type of tweets from the pro players. All of them are just talking about how this update is not good, it's very minimum, and they wish it could be more. You have this player here whose name I believe is Elias. If I butcher it, my apologies. But this is a player, to my understanding, who was banned previously from the TWT. That was a long time ago, and he was unbanned. And not only was he unbanned, but he was allowed to participate in the tournament. If you ban a player and still allow them to enter, commit to it and show their matches. We missed some viral ones. This person fought all their way through the whole tournament, and Bandai Namco was basically dodging them and not trying to put them on stream, not trying to say their name, and not even tagging them in this tweet here. No tag. But then they also respond and say to this, 4th place will not receive TWT points due to not meeting eligibility criteria for TWT 2025. Now this has ticked a lot of people off because if they're not eligible, then why are you allowing them to knowingly participate? They kept them off stream for as long as they could. As you can see here, bro says, okay, I don't exist. A lot of people are disappointed once again in Bandai Namco's handling of this situation. We talked a little bit about Fakam already, but highlighting him a little bit more because he's probably going to be very, very powerful, especially when you take into consideration his guard breaks and his installs and how he can constantly tap into that. I think we're going to see a very, very, very powerful character. He's a little bit tricky. Like there's a lot of 3-4-3 and, you know, back and forth buttons. So you got to get the rhythm and the timing down. But once the players have some experience with him, everyone's going to lock in and you're going to start seeing people do crazy work with him. His poking is insane. His reach is insane. His combo damage is on par with pretty much everyone else. But when you talk about his guard breaks and his ability to lock you down and make you guess, I mean, most of the roster have to just guess. I spent about an hour on stream going through the whole roster and seeing how they all can react against Fakam's guard break, and I put this little tier list together to show you how likely it is for your character to survive. And Yoshimitsu sitting at the top. His spin and his flash is enough to get him out of that Fakam situation easy peasy, and Fakam better not try it. The other characters, Lars, Raven, and Victor, they have one move that can basically get out of all of the options as well. But the thing is, if Fakam does a bait and he cancels his guard break and he goes to block instead, all of those characters can be launched. The other characters in the B tier, they also have a similar situation where they have to basically commit to something. They have to commit to something and they could basically trade with Fakam, and that's their only thing. You do have the section here where the characters who have parries can somewhat fight back, but still Fakam can try to call them out and get a read on them. But then every other character character, they just have to guess. No move they can do is fast enough besides a power crush or a rage art. Everything else you will get counter hit by Fakam and you will die. Stepping is not an option. You just have to guess. And with how strong this guy is, with how everything that this guy does wall splats, he's going to be a monster. It's strange because the developers continue to release pay to win DLC, and other fighting games don't really do this all the time, especially right before $1 million tournament. Are they trying to have a million Fakam show up? I mean, it's going to happen, but it just sucks to see that we constantly go down this path where developers, they do something, it gets a bunch of hate because they're not listening, and then they as a response to that, they kind of just turtle, they kind of just cover up, they kind of just hide, they don't really talk anymore on Twitter. When they go on stage, they look sad. When they do summer updates, they look sad, but also they're not explaining things. The Tekken developers really have to understand that the players are this way because the game changed into something that we cannot recognize, and it won't stop without them starting. They are the ones who put this game in this offensive vortex, and they're the only ones who can take it out.